You're probably seeing almost everybody get sponsored by Off the Grid. You're seeing it everywhere, but that makes it harder to know exactly how good the game is or if it's worth playing because everyone is being paid to play the game. Now, I'm going to be sharing my honest thoughts on the game and also giving an insight into whether or not you're actually going to enjoy it. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters the most. Are you going to have fun playing Off the Grid? And if you're not, why? Now, this game is a battle royale game / extraction, but not really. It's mostly just a battle royale game where you can like loot some stuff in the game that will later on be able to get you more attachments and weapons and abilities to put on your loadout, which you can call in the match, just like Warzone. So that's the extraction part. The rest of the game is literally just battle royale. Now, battle royales are fun, you know, that's what I've been playing the most of over the last few years, Apex Legends namely being the one, and I'd like to draw comparisons to Apex Legends to start this video off because it gives us a good idea about whether or not Off the Grid is enjoyable or not. Now, I'm going to break this video into 4 main parts: the feel of the game mechanics, the battle royale elements, and the NFT part. Now, the feel of the game is the most important thing. It's how you feel when you shoot a player, when you kill them, when you get shot at by a player, and everything in between. When you kill a player in Call of Duty, in Apex Legends, even in Battlefield, it feels good. And that's because the devs who made those games spent so long making sure it feels good. And when you die, it's impactful, and you know kind of when things are working the way they should, you know when you die, you know why you die, and you know when you're taking damage. These sort of elements of shooter games are so important. The feel of the guns, the feel of the damage of the guns, the damage you take from players, the feel of the damage you do to players. All of these things can be achieved through different elements, whether it's animations, sound effects, visual recall, physical recall. All of this stuff adds to the feeling of how the guns feel, how it feels to actually kill players. And honestly, when it really comes down to it, you can add all of these cool elements to a game, all of the cool, quirky, extra abilities and movement features and all this, that, and the other. But if the core gameplay experience doesn't feel good, you're not going to keep coming back. It's one of the reasons why games like Counter-Strike and Valorant can remain so popular for so long, because getting good with those core gameplay mechanics feels amazing. It's one of the reasons why, despite Apex Legends being so frustrating at times, it still feels so good to play, because those core elements of just fighting and getting kills feels so good. It's so polished, it's so perfected, it's a piece of art. Now, Off the Grid is as far from a piece of art as possible. The way the guns feel in this game really make you wondering why you're playing it. I played for quite a while. I put in maybe 5-6 hours, and I really tried as hard as I could to enjoy it. And there were some cool mechanics with the movement. The skydive mechanics sort of reminded me of the Blackout Battle Royale game a little bit. The grappling felt okay, and whilst the movement was a little bit rough around the edges, it was kind of fun to move around the map with so much freedom of movement. The core gun mechanics really need some work. The weapons don't feel like they have any life to them whatsoever. When you're dealing damage to players, they hardly react, and that really makes it difficult to know how much damage you're doing to players. And likewise, when you're taking damage, there's not really enough indicators there to tell you how much damage you're taking or from where. Now, all of these issues could be improved over time, but honestly, I think the whole gun system needs a massive rework from the ground up, and it's probably something the developers aren't going to be looking at. Now, this game, as you've noticed, is a third-person shooter, which creates some difficulties in its own, considering it's a battle royale game, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second when we get to the battle royale aspects of this game. But that doesn't mean it has to be a bad shooter game. There have been good third-person shooter games. I think even something like Fortnite has pretty enjoyable gun mechanics once you get the hang of it. We've seen games like Rogue Company have pretty nice feeling third-person shooter mechanics, Gears of War. There are a lot of options out there that do feel pretty great, but this game lacks any weight at all. If you've ever enjoyed playing Apex, Call of Duty, Battlefield, any of these blockbuster shooter games where honestly the dev teams have veterans that have been in the industry for so long that they just inherently know how to make a good shooter game. The people at the helm of this game, I don't know who they are, but it feels like they don't know how to make a shooter game. The best way I can describe the feeling is they've learned how to make games, but they don't know how to create gaming experiences that are actually enjoyable. Said they've created a world that has some character and lore to it for sure, and some pretty interesting backstories, but they've failed to deliver on the main mechanics to actually make gaming fun in the first place. Now, it's not all about the shooting. There are other elements in the game that can kind of bring some joy, and I think that where we go to the game mechanics part of Off the Grid, there are some pretty cool things. So in this game, you get augments to your arms and your legs. So you can have one left arm, one right arm, and one leg augment. And these give you 3 different abilities in the game. The legs typically are movement based, although there is like a mortar thing you can use as well. And the arms are a lot more utility based. You can get recons, you can get grapples, you can get sort of like shield things, make yourself invisible for a short time. There's a lot of options to sort of augment the way you want to play, and it's an ability based battle royale at the heart of it, and you can run around the map looting boxes, and the sort of looting experience feels very similar to Warzone. Instead of only getting guns, you're also getting these attachments to your arms and legs that can give you different abilities as you play. Now, they do feel pretty fun, and I think with a bit of work to sort of work on the jankiness of it, the movement's going to be pretty awesome, pretty fluid. It takes some time to master, but there's some enjoyment there. And I think that perhaps if you enjoy that sort of ability to fly through the map and grapple around and go from building to building and, engage in that sort of gameplay, then there may be something you enjoy with Off the Grid. Like I said earlier, the gun mechanics aren't great, but this movement part is probably the shining light. It's something that feels pretty great, and everything else besides it really is lacking. You're not going to feel like there's any wow factor here. You may as well be playing a different battle royale if you're looking for fun. Now, this is a free-to-play game, so there's nothing really harming you pressing the download button and just giving it a go. I think with a lot of games, it really is down to your own subjective experience. I've played so many shooter games. Some have hit blockbuster levels of success, and others have died out of the gate. And despite that, I found myself enjoying both successful games and games that have died very shortly after launch. And some games that I've personally enjoyed a lot, most people online have absolutely hated. So honestly, it really comes down to whether you enjoy it, and it's a free game, so it is worth trying because you may get some enjoyment out of it, despite what I'm sharing about the experience I've had. Now, the Battle Royale extraction features is what I want to talk about next. Now we talk about what the experience is like in-game. I kind of want to delve back a bit and talk about this sort of overarching experience where you go into the game, you can get these hexes and you can extract those hexes, and when you do, unlocking those hexes will give you items that you can then put in your loadout, just like in Warzone, where you can build a loadout and then when you're actually in Battle Royale, you can call in that loadout. In this game, it's a lot more important than Warzone, and you can get your loadout a lot sooner and more often. And the weapons and attachments and abilities for your arms and legs are going to make a massive difference on how you play the game. Getting a good loadout early game is going to be very rewarding. Now, the trouble is, building up good items to put in your loadout requires a lot of gameplay, and it's going to be difficult because these hexes that you basically get out of the game will roll a random item for certain things. So it could be you get a weapon hex, and then you're going to get a randomly generated weapon that could be common, rare, or epic of rarity, and then you could get a weapon attachment of common, rare, and epic, and that attachment might not even go on the guns that you own, and you have to really just keep getting these hexes over and over and over again. And to unlock these hexes, you also need currency, which you earn in-game slowly over time. Now, you can pay monthly to earn even more currency, and it's a game that takes a lot of time investment to get a good loadout, and I think for new players, it's going to be you know, a few months down the line, if you're a new player and there's still skill-based matchmaking in place, you'll jump in and struggle because other players have built a loadout much better than you. And you can get that loadout within just a couple of minutes of the game, which is a bit ridiculous. So these other people out here could have spent a long time building up the best loadout by grinding out these hexes and building it strong and getting the best attachments and the best utility with their arms and legs. And then you are little Timmy with no time to spare, can't really upgrade your gear, and you basically better off just running around picking guns off the floor. It's a gameplay loop that I don't think is going to be pretty healthy. And then you tie in the NFT part. Now, NFTs are a touchy subject because despite the technology being pretty cool, it's a very easy thing to use to basically take advantage and scam people for a lot of money. That's basically the most sort of knowledge that anyone knows about NFTs is just scams and pyramid schemes and stuff and rug pulls, and basically it's not got a good rep, right? So going into this, you're going to be wary already hearing that term. Now in this game, it's not necessarily going to be anything like that. They are pretty upfront with how it works, but it still pretty much means this game will end up one day becoming pay to win, because you can basically go on the market and buy attachments. So you can't buy the currency yet, but if this currency becomes a publicly traded coin, which seems to be perhaps the direction they want to go in the future, you could buy some of the currency for this game on a cryptocurrency exchange, and then just go and purchase whatever attachments and guns you want, however expensive that may be, and put that in your loadout. Within a couple of minutes in the match, you have that loadout, and other people around you probably don't. Now, that to me seems extremely not a healthy game loop. And I think what will happen is new players will end up churning out because they'll feel frustrated that the best players have the best gear in the game and they don't. And you'll end up with just a game where you can't compete unless you have the best items in your loadout. And that seems like a problem. So, you know, right now, that's not the case, right? They're still building this game, developing it. The NFT stuff is still sort of like early days, but that's a definite concern for this game. And I think that, you know, if you play the game now, you may enjoy it, but we have to look at the greater picture. That's the whole story of this game. I don't see it doing well, to be honest. Let's just take a step back and forget about the NFT part. The core gameplay experience of this game really hasn't been thought through. It's a third-person shooter game, okay? And there's a lot of elevation, and there's a lot of mobility that allows you to get elevation. The most meta thing for this game is to literally just go on top of the highest building, stand there, look down at everybody, and nobody can really look up at you and get a good angle of you because of the head glitch there. And basically whoever holds the tallest building in this game is going to win the game. And as soon as anyone comes up on your building, you can just use your mobility to escape to another big tall tower. The core gameplay loop of this game hasn't been thought through. The game devs responsible for this game obviously aren't game veterans. They haven't built good game experiences, and it's easy to tell. I just don't think this game, even without the NFT stuff, is going to live very long. But you might be able to play it now and enjoy it for a couple weeks, couple months, I don't know, couple days, and there's no problem with that. It's a free game. So, you know, at the end of the day, if you want to try it, you might find it enjoyable, but there are a lot of warning signs to consider. So yeah, that's a look at Off the Grid, my honest thoughts on it. I don't see it living very long. Maybe it will, but you know, there's just so many things that make me feel like it's not gonna go along after the marketing campaign has died off. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the comments. Cheerio.